Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for wudi as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen on Spotify. This is from the chilldspot third one-man live tour in Zip Diver City. This track is titled, as I understand it, Undecided, if I'm not mistaken, and we're going to listen through it from start to finish. We're going to hear what we think. Chilldspot live track is Undecided. Let's go. Hell of a groove immediately though, right?
好きに乗ってきましょう東京もうどれだけ頑張ったってあの子にはなれない風に私悲しくなる今まで聞いていたことも無視してみてよあとはどっかへ行こう無意味に自分を否定し続けなくていいよ
They sound like they're doing their studio work. This live set is fantastic. They're great. I mean, it sizzles the guitar with the dance beat. Offbeat hope and hi-hats. It's just got such a fantastic sort of like polish to it as well from a production perspective. I'm blown away with how sort of tight that sounds. It's great how you really can't differentiate between the two nowadays, studio and live, as much as you could be used to. Are there backing vocalists in around the solo section? I want to go back and appreciate the solo by itself again. We're going to go back to the start of the guitar solo because I feel bad for interrupting, but I've just noticed those backing vocalists as well. They create this interesting sort of like sort of sense of depth to the track. Ah, fantastic bass focus. Really well voiced guitar solo as well.
Arigatou.
Domo. Fantastic. Excellent track. I enjoyed that a lot. I thought it was great to listen through that. Gasuki desu. Yeah? I'm gonna have a think about this track for a moment, and we're gonna talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion, my review of this track from an act named chilldspot off of their one-man live tour, the third one-man live tour in Zep Diver City. This track titled Undecided. Now, what do I think this track is about? Thinking that because there's like this dance aesthetic, this style to the music, and like maybe they're undecided about it. Maybe they're wondering who to dance with, who to be with, etc. Is that the kind of intention there? Is that the implicit implication there? I'm not sure. But either way, I think it's cool, man. I kind of like the fact that we're talking about being undecided by something. It's okay not to know things. It's okay to want to be curious and to figure that out. There's a great charisma to the vocal performance. I think that they're a really solid singer, very comfortable in the head and chest voice. They smashed it with the performance. They're live in a situation where they weren't overproduced, they weren't over-engineered. They just connected with the audience really neatly, and they were a fantastic front woman. Smashed it. No complaints whatsoever. They were great as a main in the verses or the choruses. There were backing vocals, I think, as well, that were calling, responding maybe with what was going on the center leads. But either way, it was just really sort of like palatable and soulful, and I think that it did pay tribute really well to some of the disco stuff of the 70s and 80s. I think it led back to there really neatly. A lot of music seems to be going back in time a bit at the moment, where we want to go back and sort of find our roots with certain ideas where we might have strayed a bit too far off the beaten path. And I think what's really cool about chilldspot here is that they not only did that, they went back to those roots, but they even so excelled and made it their own. But yeah, great energy to the vocal performance. They sang really well, and I even though I didn't understand the words, I had a nice time with it. I think that the track at 3:58 is really full of life. I appreciate the efforts to make it interesting with the guitar, bass, and drums. It's kind of wild just to open a track up with the drum groove. I wanted to go back to the start of the song to sort of confirm my suspicions about how it began. And it was such a great attitude to it, you know. Had a sense of pace there that was kept up with the vocal introducing themselves, and then you had the guitars and the bass come in there to fill up the high and mid-range pretty neatly. And in the chorus sections, you had that extra guitar part to articulate an extra chorus section with backing vocals to further enhance it. We had dynamic range, seamless transitions, even a solo section near the end, which was kind of dope, as well as a bass playing, sort of a bass riff part there with some octave shifts there to sort of lead us out. And ultimately, I think there was a really seamless track with little to no filler, without a note out of place, very tight live performance there. And yeah, they smashed it. I think that if I talk about a few of my favorite instruments within this, I think that with a similar motif the entire time, the guitar, there weren't a lot of changes with the chord progressions within this track, I don't think. Like, there might have been a bit of extra added sort of like attention to like the final chord before the choruses and stuff like that, but otherwise we had a bass line that we were content sticking with for most of it, that the guitar rode on with some interesting bar chords there, and we had some arpeggiated parts as well, some more low-key layers, and then of course the lead guitar later on, once the vocalist had a few choruses and a few verses and stuff like that to lead us out with a really elegant. It started with pentatonics and blues, and then almost went sort of like very jazzy with it. We had some interesting harmonical melodics, or like we got very sort of jazzy on it with maybe some modes and stuff like that. I thought it was really, really sensational. It can be that wonderful sort of switch from more simplistic scale like the blues pentatonic to the natural major or minor that can make a solo sound more mature or give it an additional layer when at the second half of it. So it's great to understand that we can vary it like that for effect. And I like the different tones of the different guitar parts as well. They were chosen really neatly there. It was smart to differentiate them like that, not just performatively but also with how they sounded. I thought the bass line was really tight. It was dope, man. Like the way that we stuck with like the roots and also did some octave shifts there. We had a great sense of awareness of what the drums were doing there, and we stuck really neatly to that kick flow, that quarter note pace there. And we left a lot of room for the guitars to do their thing as well as the vocals on top, while also ensuring that power and that precision and again that funkiness remains in there as a staple of the genre. You need that bass in order to keep it pumping, right? And so beyond that, we had, the drums there. And the drums were wonderful. They had mainly a consistency with like the hi-hats, the kicks and the snares and stuff like that, with some interesting snare fills. We did some transitions occasionally, but a lot of it was focused on having the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 end of those hi-hats with occasional opens on the offbeat. And the reason that worked quite well, I think, is because that allows for not only the kicks to be strong on the 1, 2, 3, 4, but it also occasionally sparkles in the parts that are only in between, and that gives it an innate sense of energy and kind of like fun to it, I suppose. You can kind of do a movement to that extra part. It's basically there to get people and moving and having a good time. I think the tightness of our performance there in regards to the percussion elevated what was going on with the bar chord patterns, rhythms on the guitar, even the lead passages and the bass lines, and left us in a position where it just sounded incredibly well matched and precise. And that is so important for dance music and disco and stuff like that. If you are not on the ball like a damn near a metronome there, it's almost going to sound a little bit, it's just going to sound a little bit too loose. People need to know how to stab. So with that in mind, you have a piece where, the guitars, bass, drums, and vocals are tight there, and where the backing vocals for extra effects. And that's all we need. I don't think we needed more for this. Again, we had really wonderful variations in the layers, but they were subtle, but they were effective adjustments and instrumental layers between sections there. We had that solo section near the end there. I think I've also just remembered that we had some bridges as well, where things would come out a little bit and would have less of the low end resonance there. I forgot to mention that. But that's just the thing. That's how we got it to 4 minutes. It was a great use of that time. The theme overall sounded like we were in a club and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do next, what our next move was there. It was a wonderful, because of the use of the major and minor chords without any sort of weird extensions or anything like that. Or maybe there was occasional sevenths there, which allowed for that sort of jazzy sequencing of the solo in that second half. But there's no harsh textures or resonances there. It's trying to infer a classiness and sophistication there in our movements. And it just, again, the groove of the drums and the bass provided an invitation to dance and get involved in it. And I think the combination of those two kind of add to the vocals and lyrics in a way which is very positive, and they do connect. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering, though, are tight. Again, this is a live performance. I'm very impressed with how well it comes through. The guitar, bass, drums, and vocals, as well as the backings, are captured really, really neatly. And they are clear and crystal clear in the mix. The vocals are not overproduced. The guitar, bass, and drums, they sound like they should. They've got differentiation between elements there. There was no issues with the leveling or anything like that. No weird resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum. You can hear a bit of the crowd as well, so you kind of know they're playing live there, but not too much. Not that that's an issue, but you know what I mean? It's you can tell they're live, but the music surrounds you in the headphones, no panning issues. There's dynamic range, things aren't the same loudness all the time, and it's nice and loud without pumping, so all the bus compression limiting is handled. And while I remember, I remember listening to it just before, the vocalist, after that last chorus, before that solo section, the vocalist goes da-da-da-bum. They kind of make the sounds of a guitar or the melody with their mouth. They go almost sort of scattish or onomatopoeic about it. And the reason I dig that is just it's a really kind of cool way to transition from them to a lead voice, an alternate lead voice in there. It's indicating that the story has ended and now it's just time to appreciate the sound of it. Thank you for watching my review of this track from an act named Chilldspot, titled Undecided, the live version, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love by their various social medias and Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as need to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next SC Patrons video. Spiderhands out.